The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as I stepped onto the operations floor one last time. The cardboard box heavy in my arms like the weight of every late night I'd spent keeping this place alive. Balloons in corporate blue and silver bobbed lazily from the edges of what used to be my desk. The smell of catered Thai food and fresh coffee wafted from the conference table, where trays of spring rolls and pastries sat untouched by most. Except for the cluster of managers circling like excited relatives at a baby shower. Brooke Ellis, 28. Sharp blazer hugging her frame, stood at the center of it all. Her smile wide and practiced, tablet in hand as if it held all the answers to the universe. Derek Vance, my boss for the past 9 years, hovered behind her with that proud, paternal grin he reserved for people who said the right buzzwords in meetings. Everyone, let's give a warm welcome to Brooke. She's going to modernize our routing backend and take us to the next level. Clapping erupted. Polite, but enthusiastic. The kind reserved for someone who promised disruption without the mess of actually understanding freight logistics in the real Midwest winters. I kept walking, my heels clicking steadily on the tile. No one really looked at me except Brooke, who offered a small wave. Her eyes bright with the naive excitement of a new hire who thought she was stepping into opportunity rather than someone else's decade of sweat. The cupcake on the edge of the table had my name scrawled on it in looping script. Best of luck, Alex. But I didn't touch it. The folded card next to it was already signed by half the team in 5 different fonts. Generic well wishes that meant nothing after nearly 9 years of building the backbone that kept Apex Freight Solutions trucks moving from Chicago distribution hubs to East Coast ports without tripping over penalty clauses. Derek caught my eye as I passed the printer station. Brooke will clean up the old processes, he said with a smirk. Like we were sharing an inside joke. Your mess hung unspoken in the air. I nodded once, polite as a widow at a funeral, and kept going toward HR downstairs. Inside, I wasn't surprised. Hurt. Yes, deeply but not surprised. I'd felt the shift months ago when Derek started talking about next-gen leadership and dynamic modernization in Monday huddles. His gaze sliding past me like I was furniture. Apex wasn't glamorous. It was gritty freight, weather-beaten trucks hauling perishables, pharmaceuticals, and time-sensitive parts across I-80 corridors prone to lake-effect snow and ice storms. I joined as a junior analyst right after grad school and clawed my way up by writing the custom routing algorithm that saved us during the brutal 2018 polar vortex. Before my system, trucks idled for days, contracts bled penalties, and clients threatened to walk. I built load priority triggers that automatically rerouted high-value shipments around bridge restrictions, driver fatigue windows, and real-time weather volatility from NOAA feeds integrated into our schema. Zero missed SLAs that brutal winter. Quarterly bonuses flowed because of it. But Derek never liked that I spoke softly, presented data without flair, and preferred debugging code over schmoozing in meetings. Brooke had shadowed me for one afternoon. She asked surface-level questions about rerouting snow-delayed loads. I walked her through the override triggers I'd embedded in the legacy backbone, manual scripts for when auto-balancers failed in multi-region node outages. She tapped notes on her tablet but wrote nothing substantial, her eyes glazing when I showed the fallback matrix. The next morning, my admin credentials were revoked without a call or sit-down. The email was clinical, coordinate transition with Brooke by Friday. Security will escort your exit. I didn't rage. Rage required surprise. And I'd seen this coming in the way Derek praised her consultancy slides filled with pastel graphs and words like synergy and transformative scalability. She was younger, flashier, perfect for corporate videos. Quiet competence made people like Derek nervous. It didn't photograph well. Before leaving, I opened the bottom drawer of my old desk, the one with the jam divider no one ever fixed, and slipped in a single folded sheet, a printed diagram of the core routing schema. The real one with fine print notes on manual intervention thresholds when node failures hit 3 regions or more. Overrides sat in a legacy shell folder. It wasn't sabotage. It was a mirror. If Brooke didn't know to look for it, she wouldn't find the fixes when the system inevitably strained. I gave them exactly what they wanted. My absence. No hand-holding. Downstairs, HR handed me the cupcake and card awkwardly. The junior rep didn't even know where to collect my badge at first. Upstairs, the party continued without me. I paused at the hallway window overlooking the dispatch monitors still set to my custom tri-state view, red corridors blinking for storm risks across Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. They wouldn't notice today. But soon, the silence I left behind would speak volumes. That evening, I drove home to my quiet apartment in the suburbs outside Indianapolis, the box riding shotgun. For the first time in years, I didn't check weather apps obsessively or run mental simulations of load flows. I poured a glass of wine, sat on the couch, and let the hurt settle, not explosive, but a slow ache. 9 years of 3 a.m. emergency patches during blizzards, ignored suggestions for better documentation because we need velocity, not friction, and now this, replaced by someone who thought logistics was bullet points on slides. The trust was shattered. They had carried me like a burden, then celebrated unloading it. Monday dawned gray and heavy, the kind of Midwest morning where the sky presses down like a warning. I slept in past 7 for the first time in memory, brewed coffee strong and black, and scrolled weather radar as a civilian, watching a nor'easter-style system dump freezing rain and gale-force winds across the exact high-priority corridors our pharma and perishable contracts traveled. Red zones lit up Connecticut approaches, Rhode Island hubs, southern Massachusetts. In my old life, I'd have been on call since 4 a.m., preemptively triggering overrides to reroute trucks before sunrise. But that wasn't my problem anymore. At 10:15 a.m., my phone buzzed, a text from a junior dispatcher I'd mentored. Sarah, Alex. Northeast routing is looping hard. Auto reroutes keep defaulting to Springfield Hub. Truck stalled. Brooke can't locate the manual protocol. You around? I read it twice, set the phone face down, and took a long sip of coffee. The silence felt heavy but freeing. No adrenaline spike. No responsibility crushing my shoulders. By 10:30, calls started pouring in. Unknown numbers. Then Brooke's cell. I let them ring into voicemail. The first was upbeat, almost casual. Hey Alex. Quick question on the legacy scripts. Could use your brain for a second on the override triggers. 5 messages later, the tone cracked. Number 7. We're getting regional node errors. Can't find the fallback matrix you mentioned. If you could just point me. Number 12 came shaky, breathless. Alex, please. Carl, Derek. Sorry, said you built the manual triggers. The system keeps failing high-value loads. We're already behind SLA. I'm sorry this is awkward. We need help. I didn't listen to the rest. I imagined the floor, dispatch screens frozen, 8 or more trucks idling at hubs, drivers calling in frustrated, clients on hold. My system was robust, it rarely failed outright, but when it hit multi-region overloads without intervention, it needed the architect's eye to reset the geometry of flow. Brooke thought she could PowerPoint her way through chaos. Freight wasn't clean slides, it was real-time decisions balancing contracts, weather telemetry, driver hours of service rules, and bridge weight limits under ice. I took a walk through my neighborhood, boots crunching on early frost, no headphones, just the wind and my thoughts. For 9 years, every crisis had been mine to solve. Ignored in meetings when I suggested dual-layer failsafes in 2020. We'll get to it, Alex. But velocity first. Yet they cashed the bonuses my code enabled. Derek always favored louder voices. Flashier presentations. Brooke's logistics is dynamic. T-shirt under her blazer probably earned laughs. My quiet competence got sidelined. Tuesday brought the receipts. Penalty notices hitting Derek's inbox before lunch. One national distributor flagged 6 delayed shipments, triggering a 10% contract clause. $380,000 evaporated. Another major Midwest partner issued a temporary hold on new orders pending reliability review. Corporate speak for, "You're incompetent, we're out." I knew those clauses intimately. I'd helped legal draft them to protect against exactly this cascade. My contingency rules had prevented it for years, but they sat ignored in sandbox folders because some IT lead called them too manual. Derek called at 7:50 p.m. From his personal cell, no office line. Smart for deniability. I watched it ring, then silenced it. On my laptop, I opened my personal backup drive, annotated schemas, version flowcharts, risk logs from the 2019 derecho that nearly took out 3 nodes. Each file color-coded, with notes like, deploy only after 2x mainline recovery failure. I'd built safeguards even against myself because I never trusted them to value the boring details. The irony burned. They mocked my overkill documentation until breaks failed. Now they wanted the friction they'd dismissed. Wednesday's Slack from a former colleague. They broke your baby. Internal escalation reports flooded. Legacy system unresponsive post-failover. Corrupted nodes from Brooke's attempted import of a beta scheduling model suited for warehouse shelves. Not live multi-state fleet telemetry. The load balancer collapsed under mismatched schemas. Routes deadlooped. Time-sensitive contracts couldn't populate. IT threads exploded with 60-plus entries tagging Brooke, Derek, eventually me. A senior engineer I trained tried restore protocols. They failed because staging logs weren't cleared before the push. The IT director finally asked, "Where's Alex? We need archival access." Derek forwarded the thread to me with 3 dots. No greeting. No apology. Just ellipses screaming surrender. I screenshotted everything. Saved to my when they rewrite history folder. They would blame legacy code. The old guard. Claim I left a mess. But my documentation proved otherwise. By noon, 25 missed calls from Brooke. Her fiancé's number, real estate guy. She'd mentioned once. Even blocked lines. Voicemails piled up. I waited for silence. Then played the middle one, number 14. Alex. I know you're upset. I wasn't ready. The system needs legacy schema access, and I don't understand the overrides. Carl's not responding. We've lost control. Please. I'm sorry. I need your help. Her voice cracked on the last word. I closed the app, left the messages. She'd looked under the hood and seen not a mess, but a precisely engineered cathedral she'd tried redecorating with crayons. The hurt lingered, trust destroyed, but so did a cold satisfaction. They celebrated my exit. Now they lived with the consequences of undervaluing the person who carried the load quietly. The crisis peaked Thursday morning with a full system crash. Dispatch terminals went dark beyond basic failover. Brooke's imported model had jammed the core, like forcing mismatched puzzle pieces, triggering protective shutdown to safeguard data integrity. High-risk loads sat paralyzed. Clients raged on phones. Internal panic reached fever pitch. Over 80 IT thread entries. HR looped in. Legal drafting damage control language. I spent the day in my kitchen. Half-eaten lunch forgotten. Listening to the voicemails one by one. Brooke's desperation grew raw, pleas mixed with admissions she'd underestimated the complexity. Derek tried twice more. His messages shorter, edged with frustration, disguised as concern. One from legal, veiled hints at consulting agreements. I deleted none of it. Evidence mattered. Flashbacks hit hard during quiet moments. The 2015 nor'easter, when my first routing prototype saved us from 72-hour idles. The time Derek dismissed my proposal for automated weather integration because it added friction, forcing me to maintain manual overrides that later proved life-saving. Every time a louder male colleague got credit for my fixes in meetings. Quiet women, especially those who didn't play the corporate shine game, made leadership nervous. Brooks' arrival felt inevitable once they chased modernization, optics over substance. By Friday, the memo dropped. Temporary system reversion to prior routing schema for stability during audit. No apologies. No accountability. Just sanitized corporate speak dodging the $400,000 plus penalties. Missed pharma shipments rerouted expensively. Client pauses. But the restored interface told the truth. My build, my logic. Manual toggles reactivated. Timestamp showed night shift techie. Torres enabling the legacy override. Screens showed my schema name visible. A dispatch contact texted a photo. Your mess? I replied. My blueprint. Glad they finally read it. The system hummed again. Handling loads it was designed for. Brooks' rebrand experiment lay in ruins. She faded quietly. No dramatic exit. Just reassignment or quiet departure. Derek reached out once more Sunday afternoon. I let it ring unanswered. A final echo of all the ignored suggestions over the years. 2 weeks later, an email from a recruiter at our largest regional rival, Vanguard Logistics. They'd heard I architected Apex's uptime streak. Interested in leading next-gen deployment. Clean slate. Full respect for foundational knowledge. I considered it seriously, not from bitterness, but curiosity. In the meantime, I'd already started building on my home server, a leaner, smarter routing engine with bulletproof docs, integrated AI weather prediction. No corporate debt or egos. Complete control. They threw a party for my replacement. Balloons and cupcakes celebrating fresh blood. In return, I gave them silence, the most devastating response. Their system ticked on, powered by the code they tried to discard but couldn't escape. The trust was gone forever. What does it say about us when companies chase shine over substance, only to beg the discarded expert when reality bites? The quiet ones who build the foundations deserve more than a cardboard box and a forgotten cupcake.